Saladin. The very name evokes images of chivalry, of cunning strategy, and of fierce battles fought beneath the scorching Middle Eastern sun. He is a towering figure of history, revered by both East and West, a Muslim warrior who challenged the might of Christendom during the Crusades. But Saladin's story isn't just about epic confrontations and battlefield victories. It's a tale of ambition, political maneuvering, and a relentless drive to unify a fractured Islamic world against a common enemy. Our journey begins not on the ramparts of Jerusalem, but amidst the turmoil of the 12th century in a land far from the Holy City. This is the story of how a young Kurdish boy born in the shadow of conflict rose to become the champion of Islam, the Sultan Saladin. The year is 1137. In the strategically vital town of Tikrit, nestled along the banks of the mighty Tigris River, a legend is born. His name is Yusuf ibn Ayyub, but history will come to know him as Saladin, meaning righteousness of the faith. His birth coincides with a period of immense political upheaval. The once mighty Seljuk Empire, a Turkish dynasty that once controlled a vast swathe of the Middle East, is crumbling. Rival factions vie for power, their ambitions clashing like swords on a chaotic battlefield. Saladin's father, Najm ad-Din Ayyub, is a Kurdish military officer loyal to the Seljuk governor of Tikrit. The family is forced to flee their home shortly after Saladin's birth, driven out by the shifting tides of power. This tumultuous beginning casts a long shadow over Saladin's early life and instills in him a keen understanding of the precarious nature of power and the importance of unwavering loyalty. Forced from Tikrit, the Ayyub family seeks refuge in Mosul, a bustling city renowned for its libraries and scholars. It is here that young Saladin receives his education, immersing himself in the study of the Quran, Islamic theology, and the art of war. But Mosul is not to be their final destination. Fate, it seems, has other plans for the Ayyub clan. Saladin's father is offered a prestigious position in Damascus, the ancient capital of Syria, by none other than Imad ad-Din Zengi, the powerful Atabeg of Mosul and Aleppo. Damascus in the 12th century is a city steeped in history and culture, a vibrant hub of trade and scholarship. It is here, amidst the bustling bazaars and majestic mosques, that Saladin spends his formative years, honing his skills and nurturing his ambitions. Little does he know that he will one day rule this magnificent city, and from its walls he will launch his campaign to unite the Muslim world. In Damascus, Saladin comes under the tutelage of his uncle, Asad ad-Din Shirkuh, a formidable warrior and a trusted general in Nur ad-Din's army. Recognizing his nephew's sharp mind and thirst for knowledge, Shirkuh takes Saladin under his wing, providing him with invaluable military training and exposing him to the complexities of battlefield tactics and political strategy. Under Shirkuh's guidance, Saladin flourishes. He participates in his first military campaigns, proving himself a capable soldier and strategist. He learns the art of siege warfare, the importance of logistics, and the delicate dance of diplomacy. Shirkuh becomes more than just an uncle to Saladin. He becomes his mentor, his confidant, and the architect of his early military successes. The year is 1163. The Fatimid Caliphate, once a beacon of Islamic power, is teetering on the brink of collapse, weakened by internal strife and external pressures. It is into this power vacuum that Nur ad-Din dispatches Shirkuh, with Saladin by his side, on a mission to stabilize Egypt and bring it under his control. This expedition marks a turning point in Saladin's life, propelling him from a skilled subordinate to a leader in his own right. The campaign in Egypt is a long and arduous one, fraught with danger and intrigue. Saladin proves himself a shrewd tactician, adept at both conventional warfare and the art of negotiation. He navigates the treacherous political landscape, forging alliances and outmaneuvering his rivals. When Shirkuh dies in 1169, Saladin, much to the surprise of many, is appointed vizier of Egypt, effectively becoming the most powerful man in the country. With Egypt firmly under his control, Saladin begins to consolidate his power. He skillfully balances diplomacy and military might, carefully navigating the complex web of alliances and rivalries that define Egyptian politics. He understands that true power lies not just in military strength, but also in the hearts and minds of the people. In 1171, Saladin takes a bold step. He abolishes the Fatimid Caliphate, a dynasty that had ruled Egypt for over 2 centuries, and re-establishes Sunni Islam as the dominant faith. This decisive act sends shockwaves throughout the Muslim world and marks the beginning of the Ayyubid dynasty, with Saladin at its helm. He's no longer just a vizier, but a sultan, a ruler in his own right. With Egypt secure, Saladin turns his attention to a greater purpose, the unification of the Muslim world. He understands that a fragmented and divided Islam is vulnerable to external threats, particularly from the Crusader states that have taken root in the Levant. He embarks on a series of campaigns, consolidating his control over Syria, Yemen, and other parts of the Muslim world. Saladin's vision is clear: to create a united Muslim front against the Crusaders. He preaches the importance of jihad, not as a war of conquest, but as a struggle to defend Islam and liberate the holy cities from Christian control. His message resonates with Muslims across the region, who flock to his banner, inspired by his leadership and his unwavering commitment to their faith. As Saladin's power grows, so too does the threat he poses to the Crusader states. He recognizes that Jerusalem, the holiest city in Christendom, is the key to breaking the Crusaders' spirit. He strengthens his fortifications, gathers his armies, and prepares for the inevitable confrontation. In 1187, Saladin launches his assault on the Kingdom of Jerusalem. His victory at the Battle of Hattin, where he decisively routs the Crusader army, paves the way for the capture of Jerusalem. After a short siege, the city falls, and Saladin, in a remarkable act of mercy, allows the Christian inhabitants to leave peacefully. The capture of Jerusalem sends shockwaves throughout Europe, sparking the Third Crusade and setting the stage for one of the most legendary confrontations in history. Saladin's journey from the turmoil of Tikrit to the gates of Jerusalem is a testament to his ambition, his military genius, and his unwavering faith. He was a brilliant tactician, a skilled diplomat, and a charismatic leader who united a fractured Muslim world against a common enemy. While he is best known for his confrontation with Richard the Lionheart during the Third Crusade, it is his early life and his rise to power that laid the foundation for his later achievements. His capture of Jerusalem cemented his place in history, not just as a Muslim hero, but as a legend whose name still resonates centuries after his death. Gap 3S. Before the capture of Jerusalem, Saladin's early military campaigns were crucial in shaping his legacy and solidifying his reputation as a formidable leader. His first campaign took place in Egypt, where he was sent by his uncle Shirkuh to support the Fatimid Caliphate against internal dissent and external threats. Gap 3S. Saladin's strategic brilliance became evident during the siege of Alexandria in 1167. Despite being outnumbered, he orchestrated a series of defensive maneuvers that not only repelled the Crusader forces but also showcased his ability to lead under pressure. His success in Egypt didn't end there. After Shirkuh's death, Saladin was appointed as the Vizier of Egypt, a position that allowed him to consolidate power and resources. Gap 3S. Another significant campaign was his fight against the Crusader kingdom of Jerusalem in 1177. At the Battle of Montgisard, Saladin faced King Baldwin IV. Although he suffered a rare defeat, this battle taught him invaluable lessons about the Crusaders' tactics and the importance of cohesion among his own troops. This experience was instrumental in his future victories. Gap 3S. Saladin's early campaigns were not just about territorial gains. They were about uniting the Muslim world under a single banner. Through alliances and military prowess, he managed to bring together diverse factions, creating a strong, unified front against the Crusaders. These early victories and lessons laid the groundwork for his later success, including the monumental capture of Jerusalem. Gap 3S. As we reflect on Saladin's early military campaigns, it becomes clear that they were the crucible in which his legendary status was forged. Each battle, each strategy, and each alliance was a stepping stone towards his ultimate goal, a unified Muslim world and the recapture of Jerusalem. His early campaigns were not just a prelude, but an integral part of his enduring legacy. Gap 3S. Join us in our next chapter as we delve into the intricate diplomacy and the relentless spirit that marked Saladin's later years and the enduring impact of his reign. Gap 3S. Saladin's military genius wasn't just a product of his bravery or leadership. It was rooted deeply in his strategic mind and tactical prowess. Every battle he fought was a masterclass in warfare, blending traditional tactics with innovative strategies that left his enemies bewildered. Gap 3S. One of his most notable strategies was his use of psychological warfare. Saladin understood that battles were not only fought on the battlefield but also in the minds of his adversaries. By spreading misinformation and creating an aura of invincibility around his forces, he often demoralized his enemies even before the first arrow was shot. Gap 3S. In the Battle of Hattin in 1187, Saladin's tactical brilliance shone brightly. He lured the Crusader forces into the arid plains, far from any water sources. Dehydrated and exhausted, the Crusaders were easy prey for Saladin's well-hydrated and strategically positioned troops. This decisive victory led to the fall of Jerusalem and marked a turning point in the Crusades. Gap 3S. Another key element of Saladin's tactics was his emphasis on mobility and flexibility. His forces were trained to move swiftly and adapt to changing battlefield conditions. This agility allowed him to outmaneuver larger, more cumbersome Crusader armies, striking swiftly and retreating before a counterattack could be mounted. Gap 3S. Saladin also excelled in siege warfare, often using a combination of direct assaults and prolonged blockades to wear down fortified cities. His siege of Jerusalem in 1187 is a prime example. Instead of a full frontal assault, he opted for a methodical approach, cutting off supplies and weakening the city's defenses over time. This strategy minimized his own casualties while maximizing the pressure on the defenders. Gap 3S. Beyond the battlefield, Saladin was a master of diplomacy. He forged alliances and negotiated truces that often gave him a strategic advantage. His ability to unite the Muslim world under a single cause was as much a diplomatic victory as it was a military one. Gap 3. Saladin's strategies and tactics were not merely about winning battles, they were about achieving long-term objectives. His holistic approach to warfare, blending military, psychological and diplomatic elements, set him apart as one of history's greatest military minds. Gap 3S. As we continue to explore the life and legacy of Saladin, it becomes evident that his success was no accident. It was the result of a brilliant mind, a relentless spirit, and an unwavering commitment to his cause. Join us in our next chapter as we delve into the personal life of Saladin, the man behind the legend, and how his character shaped the course of history. Gap 3S. Saladin's legacy extends far beyond the battlefield and the historical chronicles of the Crusades. His impact resonates even in the modern world, influencing contemporary politics, culture, and the collective memory of East and West alike. Gap 3S. In the Muslim world, Saladin remains a symbol of unity and resistance against foreign invasion. His ability to unite disparate factions under a common cause is often cited as an example of effective leadership. In countries like Egypt, Syria, and Iraq, his name is synonymous with national pride and resilience. Gap 3S. Saladin's legacy also finds resonance in Western culture. Despite being a formidable adversary, he was respected by his enemies for his chivalry and sense of honor. This respect has translated into a nuanced portrayal in Western literature and media, where he is often depicted as a noble and honorable foe. Gap 3S. His architectural contributions, particularly in Jerusalem, continue to stand as testaments to his reign. The structures he built and restored are not just historical artifacts, they are living pieces of cultural heritage that draw visitors from around the globe, fostering a deeper understanding and appreciation of the past. Gap 3S. In the realm of international relations, Saladin's diplomatic strategies offer valuable lessons. His ability to negotiate truces and forge alliances through mutual respect and understanding is studied by modern diplomats and political scientists as a model for conflict resolution. Gap 3S. Saladin's emphasis on education and knowledge also leaves a lasting impact. He established numerous schools and libraries, promoting a culture of learning that would influence generations to come. His patronage of scholars and scientists contributed to the flourishing of Islamic Golden Age, whose advancements in various fields laid the groundwork for modern science and philosophy. Gap 3S. Even in popular culture, Saladin's story continues to inspire. From novels to films, his life is depicted as a narrative of courage, wisdom, and humanity. These portrayals keep his memory alive and introduce his legacy to new audiences, ensuring that his impact is not confined to history books. Gap 3S. As we reflect on Saladin's enduring legacy, it becomes clear that his influence transcends time and geography. He was not just a warrior or a leader, he was a visionary whose principles and actions continue to shape the world we live in today. Gap 3S. Join us in our final chapter as we explore the lessons we can learn from Saladin's life and how his timeless wisdom can guide us in our own lives. Gap 3S.
The year is 1187. The world stands at a crossroads, its fate balanced on the edge of a sword. In the heart of the Middle East, the relentless march of time has brought two civilizations to the brink of a monumental confrontation. Across the scorching sands of the Holy Land, two mighty forces are on a collision course. The air is thick with tension as the sun rises over a land scarred by decades of war and hope alike. The desert, silent witness to centuries of ambition and faith, braces for the thunder of armies. On one side stand the Christian Crusader kingdoms, clinging desperately to their hard-won territories. These are men forged in the fires of battle, their banners fluttering defiantly atop stone fortresses. They are the inheritors of a dream of a Christian Jerusalem, a beacon of faith in a distant land. On the other, a resurgent Islamic world, united under the banner of a brilliant and ambitious sultan named Saladin. His armies, drawn from every corner of the Muslim world, ride with purpose and conviction, their banners a symbol of hope and unity for a people long divided. His name will become a legend. He is a unifier, a conqueror, but above all he is a man whose vision and character will shape the destiny of nations. Saladin's reputation precedes him, admired by his followers, respected even by his enemies. A man of deep faith, unwavering principle, and surprising mercy. In a world often defined by cruelty, Saladin's compassion sets him apart. He prays for guidance, seeking not only victory, but justice and peace for his people. He stands poised to alter the course of history. With every decision, every battle, he moves closer to a destiny that will echo through the centuries. The fate of empires rests on his shoulders. Saladin, born Yusuf ibn Ayyub, was no stranger to war. From his earliest days he was shaped by the chaos and opportunity of his age. He learned the art of leadership not in palaces but on the battlefield, where courage and wisdom were the only currencies that mattered. He had risen through the ranks, proving his mettle on countless battlefields. Each victory and defeat taught him lessons in strategy, loyalty, and the cost of ambition. His rise was not inevitable. It was earned step by step through perseverance and vision. But his ambitions went far beyond mere conquest. Saladin was not content to be just another warlord. He dreamed of something greater, a world where the Muslim peoples, fractured by years of infighting, could stand together as one. He envisioned a united Muslim front, strong enough to challenge the Crusader presence in the Holy Land. To achieve this, he would need to overcome not only foreign invaders but also the deep divisions within his own world. His gaze swept across the divided lands of Syria and Egypt, two keystones in the Islamic world, ripe for unification. These ancient cities, with their bustling markets and towering minarets, held the promise of a new era, if only they could be brought together under a single banner. Saladin's journey was not just one of war, but of diplomacy and alliance. He forged bonds with former enemies, navigated treacherous politics, and inspired loyalty in those who once doubted him. His ability to unite people from different backgrounds was as crucial as his skill with the sword. This is the story of his rise. The tale of a leader who transformed the fate of nations, and whose legacy would outlast the empires he built, and the battles he fought. The tale of how he united a fractured people, triumphed against seemingly insurmountable odds, and left an indelible mark on history. Through unity, determination, and vision, Saladin would become a symbol of hope for generations to come. It is a story of clashing swords and clashing ideals, of bitter rivalries and unexpected moments of humanity. In the heat of battle, Saladin's mercy would become legendary, reminding friend and foe alike that greatness is measured not only by victory, but by compassion. It is a story that echoes through the ages, reminding us of the power of leadership, the tragedy of conflict, and the enduring possibility of finding common ground amidst the chaos. As the sun sets over the ancient sands, the legacy of Saladin endures, a testament to the enduring human spirit and the hope that even in the darkest times, unity and understanding can prevail. Saladin's first objective was clear: unite the Muslim world under a single banner. Egypt, wealthy and powerful, lay under the control of the fading Fatimid Caliphate. Syria, a patchwork of squabbling city-states, was vulnerable to Crusader incursions. Saladin knew that a divided house could not stand. He moved first on Egypt, skillfully navigating the treacherous waters of courtly intrigue. He secured his position as vizier, the power behind the throne, and gradually consolidated his control. When the last Fatimid Caliph died in 1171, Saladin seamlessly assumed control, establishing the Ayyubid dynasty. Egypt was his. With Egypt secure, Saladin turned his attention north to Syria. He campaigned relentlessly, his armies growing stronger with every victory. He offered his enemies a choice: submit to his rule and join the fight against the Crusaders, or face the consequences. One by one, cities and strongholds fell to Saladin's forces. Damascus, Aleppo, Mosul all bowed before the rising Ayyubid star. The Crusader states, perched precariously on the eastern shores of the Mediterranean, watched Saladin's rise with growing unease. These outposts of European power, surrounded by a sea of rival kingdoms and empires, were always aware of their vulnerability. The imposing stone fortresses that dotted the coastline were both a symbol of their determination and a reminder of the constant threats they faced from all sides. Nearly a century earlier, waves of Crusaders had swept into the Holy Land, carving out kingdoms and principalities by force of arms. They built new cities, established their own laws, and imposed their customs on a land that was both ancient and fiercely contested. The Crusader states, Jerusalem, Antioch, Tripoli, and Edessa, became footholds of Western Christendom in the heart of the Middle East, but their rule was never uncontested. Their grip on power was tenuous, always dependent on a steady stream of reinforcements, supplies, and money from Europe. Without the support of distant kings and nobles, the Crusader states would have quickly crumbled. Every new ship that arrived from the west brought hope, but also underscored their isolation and the fragility of their position. Along the borders, tension simmered constantly. The frontiers were marked by watchtowers and patrols, with both sides wary of sudden attacks. The land between the Crusader states and their Muslim neighbors was a patchwork of contested villages, disputed fortresses, and uneasy alliances. Raids and counter-raids became a way of life. Small bands of knights would strike deep into enemy territory, burning crops and seizing prisoners, only to be met with swift retaliation. These clashes, though often small in scale, kept the region in a state of perpetual unrest, punctuated only by brief and fragile truces. Among the Crusader lords, none was more notorious than Reynaud de Chatillon, the Lord of Ultra-Jourdain. His reputation for cruelty and ambition was legendary, and his actions would soon have consequences far beyond his own lands. Reynaud was a man who cared little for treaties or the delicate balance of power that kept the peace. He was known for his defiance, his willingness to break oaths, and his relentless pursuit of personal gain. To him, the rise of Saladin was not just a threat, but an opportunity to assert his own power and provoke a larger conflict. As Saladin consolidated his rule over Egypt and Syria, Reynaud saw a chance to challenge him directly. He gathered his followers, plotted bold strategies, and sought to draw the entire region into war. His provocations were not random acts of violence, but calculated moves designed to destabilize Saladin and force a decisive confrontation. Reynaud's most audacious acts were his raids deep into Muslim territory. He attacked caravans traveling between Egypt and Syria, seizing goods and captives, and even threatened the holy cities of Mecca and Medina, an act considered sacrilegious and unforgivable by the Muslim world. These attacks were not only acts of war, but also direct challenges to Saladin's authority and his duty to protect the faithful. For Saladin, these provocations could not be ignored. As a leader bound by oaths to defend Islam and its people, he faced mounting pressure from his followers and religious leaders to respond. The raids on the caravans and the threats to the holy cities were seen as an attack on the very heart of the Muslim world. Though Saladin had long sought peace and stability, Reynaud's actions left him with no choice. The time for negotiation had passed. In his war councils, Saladin weighed his options, knowing that any response would shape the fate of the region for years to come. The decision was made. War was now inevitable. As armies gathered and banners were raised, the stage was set for a confrontation that would decide the future of the Holy Land. The road to war, paved with ambition, betrayal, and faith, had reached its end. Now, both sides prepared to meet on the field of battle. where the fate of empires would be decided. The fate of the Crusader kingdoms would be decided on the sun-baked plains of Hattin, near the Sea of Galilee. In the summer of 1187, Saladin lured the Crusader army, led by King Guy of Jerusalem, into a trap. Saladin's plan was simple, but ruthlessly effective. He cut off the Crusaders' access to water, using his light cavalry to harass and exhaust their ranks under the scorching sun. Thirst and despair gripped the Crusader army. When the battle finally came on July 4, 1187, they were already broken. The Crusader army, weakened and demoralized, was cut to pieces. King Guy and a host of other nobles were captured. The true cross, the most sacred relic of Christendom, fell into Saladin's hands. Hattin was more than just a military defeat. It was a catastrophe that shattered the Crusader kingdom's power in the Holy Land. With the Crusader army crushed at Hattin, the fate of the Holy Land was forever altered. The once mighty Crusader forces, who had dominated the region for decades, now lay scattered and broken. Their banners, once symbols of hope and conquest, were trampled into the blood-soaked earth, marking the end of an era. The path to Jerusalem lay open, unguarded, and vulnerable. For the first time in nearly a century, the city's formidable walls stood without the protection of a Crusader army. The countryside, once bustling with soldiers and supply trains, was eerily quiet, as if holding its breath for what was to come. The Holy City, a prize coveted by both sides for its immense religious significance, braced for Saladin's arrival. Within Jerusalem, fear and uncertainty gripped the population. Christian and Muslim alike wondered what the future would hold, as rumors of Saladin's victories spread like wildfire through the narrow streets. But unlike the bloody conquest of Jerusalem by the Crusaders nearly a century earlier, when rivers of blood had flowed through the city and its people had suffered unspeakable horrors, this time would be different. The memory of that brutal siege haunted both conqueror and conquered. Saladin's recapture of the city would be remarkably different. He was determined to show mercy where others had shown only cruelty, to prove that conquest did not have to mean destruction. When Saladin's forces arrived at the gates of Jerusalem, they did not storm the walls with fire and sword. Instead, Saladin sent envoys to negotiate, offering the defenders a chance to surrender with dignity. He offered the city generous terms for surrender. Rather than a bloodbath, he promised safety for all who laid down their arms. The defenders, knowing they could not withstand a siege, accepted his terms, hoping for mercy. He allowed the Christian inhabitants to leave peacefully, their lives and dignity preserved. Families gathered what little they could carry, leaving behind homes and memories, but spared the horrors of massacre. Those who wished to leave paid a ransom for their freedom, a price that, while heavy, was far preferable to the fate that had befallen the city's residents in the past. Negotiations were tense, but Saladin's men kept their word. Those who could not afford the ransom were treated with compassion. Saladin ordered that families not be separated, and that the poor and vulnerable be protected. Religious relics and holy sites, so often targets of destruction, were instead safeguarded by Muslim soldiers, a gesture of respect for the city's sacred history. On October 2, 1187, after days of negotiation and preparation, the gates of Jerusalem were opened to Saladin and his army. The city, which had seen so much bloodshed, now witnessed a moment of profound change. Saladin entered Jerusalem in triumph, not as a destroyer but as a liberator. Crowds gathered to witness the historic moment, some in awe, others in relief, as the city changed hands once more. The Islamic call to prayer once again rang out from the mosques, including the Al-Aqsa Mosque, echoing across the city for the first time in generations. The sound was both a symbol of victory and a promise of renewal. The Dome of the Rock, with its golden dome gleaming in the sunlight, stood as a testament to the city's enduring spirit. Saladin ordered that the Islamic holy sites be restored and cared for, ensuring their beauty would inspire generations to come. Restoration work began immediately, breathing new life into the mosques and monuments that had suffered under years of neglect and conflict. Craftsmen and laborers worked side by side, determined to return Jerusalem to its former glory. Saladin had achieved what he had long fought for, the liberation of Jerusalem. His vision of a city where faiths could coexist, and where mercy triumphed over vengeance, was now a reality. The restoration of Muslim rule was celebrated throughout the city. For Saladin, and for many in the Muslim world, this was not just a military victory but a moment of profound spiritual significance, a testament to the power of justice, compassion and faith.